Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now, up next in our Business and Buzz segment, we have returning contributor Kyle Wool, president of wealth management at Revere Securities, along with his good friend, Jeff Thompson, CEO of RedCat Holdings. Now, Jeff is a serial tech entrepreneur who has led companies from the startup phase to successful exits and IPOs. Back in 2018, he founded RedCat, the company at the forefront of providing solutions for the rapidly growing commercial and recreational drone industries. They're getting settled into the broadcast room, and they're going to come on in just a few to chat all things drones. Now, whether you call them unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, miniature pilotless aircraft, or flying mini robots, drones are rapidly growing in popularity. They're still in the infancy stage in terms of mass adoption and usage, but drones have already broken through rigid traditional barriers in industries which otherwise seemed impenetrable by similar technological innovations. Drones are a transformative technology that over the next decade will change in ways you likely never imagined. Although you may not spend much time thinking about the future of drones, they will have a serious impact on all of our lives. Now, over the past few years, drones have become central to the functions of various businesses and governmental organizations and have managed to pierce through areas where certain industries were either stagnant or lagging behind. From quick deliveries at rush hour to scanning an unreachable military base, drone features are proving to be extremely beneficial in places where man cannot reach or is unable to perform in a timely and efficient manner. Drones have been around for more than 2 decades, but their roots date back to World War I, when both the US and France worked on developing automatic unmanned airplanes. But the last few years have been significant in terms of drone adoption, usage, expansion across industries, and global awareness. Here to break it all down for us is Kyle Wool, president of wealth management at Revere Securities, and Jeff Thompson, CEO of RedCat Holdings. Now, RedCat provides drone products, technologies, and services to the fastest growing markets in this industry, providing high performance products, technologies, and business services for drones. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So nice to have you on. Jeff, I'm going to start with you. Drone use is gaining traction and creating opportunities for a rapidly expanding ecosystem of developers, pilots, manufacturers, and service providers. Specifically, drone use dramatically increased during the COVID pandemic and is expected to continue its growth trajectory. Talk to us about how RedCat is paving the way and revolutionizing this industry.
Yeah, we're just trying to make the usage of drones as easy as possible. For what you just mentioned, it was a great intro. It was very accurate. Drone service providers. These are companies that use drones to do work, commercial work. Now, it's a brand new technology. So our goal is just to be the easy button. They don't have to start from scratch. We have all these services through the 4 subsidiaries that we own that can get you up in the air and safely, get your missions complete. And to do real work that's important, whether it's making sure there's no COVID germs in a stadium to delivering your coffee while it's still warm.
Well, I love it. I love things that make life easier and more effective and faster, because time is money, right? And on top of technology, regulations in the industry have helped address safety and security concerns. The Federal Aviation Administration just recently enacted guidelines requiring a digital license plate that can remotely identify these unmanned aircraft, which is an important step for the integration of small unmanned aircraft into the national airspace system. So that's very telling. Kyle, the global market for drone technologies passed $100 billion in 2020 at an annual growth rate of 20.5%, and it's expected to reach approximately $58 billion by the year 2026 at a compound annual growth rate of approximately 16.5%. Excellent projections. This growth rate is not only sexy to investors, but very telling of where this industry is headed. A niche market, but a solid one. From an investment POV, what is the most attractive element in drone tech industry?
I think if you look at drones or anything to do with aerospace and space right now, it's a real hot topic. There are very few public companies you can go ahead and make the investment in. I think over the next 6 to 12 months, you will be seeing a lot of other companies going public. I think you'll be seeing more companies in the space industry going public. And then you'll probably have more ETFs, which would be a basket of companies like RedCat, which is RCAT on NASDAQ. There's very few right now that you can make the investment in. That's one of the reasons I wanted to bring someone like Jeff on here to start to highlight this industry, because besides what I do on the wealth management, where we create diversified portfolios, people also like to get in early from time to time in exciting industries like drones and space. And I think to highlight someone like Jeff now could be something that could be a much bigger company and a much bigger part of the market 6 to 12 months from now.
Your process is incredible. I love the way you look under the hood. Not only do you look at a company, but you look at the individual behind the company. And of course, somebody like Jeff Thompson has a history that speaks for itself. Now, Jeff, I'm going to throw this back to you. Whether these drones are controlled by a remote or accessed via a smartphone app, they possess the capability of reaching the most remote areas with little to no manpower needed and require the least amount of effort, time, and energy. This is one of the biggest reasons why they are being adopted worldwide, especially in military, commercial, personal, future technology sectors. Which business line seems to be standing out the most at RedCat? Because I know you have quite an amount of impressive business lines.
Yeah, there's two that I'll talk about because there's been some short-term catalysts. One is the infrastructure bill being passed recently. We have an inspection drone company called Skypersonic, which does exactly what you mentioned. We put drones in places you can't get a human being, 2 miles down a small sewer line or underneath a bridge where you have to do an inspection where you would have a unsafe place for a human to try to analyze the underneath of that bridge or at the edge of a skyscraper. That's going to be a very large catalyst for not just RedCat, but the entire drone industry. And then we also have a company called Teal Drones, which its focus is on the DoD. They're one of the 5 companies approved for the SRR DoD platform for the military defense companies and the Army mostly. And there are some very large contracts that people are being sought after in that space. But the bottom line there, even for the Army, to put a drone in every rucksack, is to do things safer, to use a drone to go out and search a battlefield and not put human life in a dangerous way.
Beautiful stuff. I love it that, the teal is military grade. And of course, when you're dealing with the Department of Defense and you're one of the approved vendors, that speaks volumes. So kudos to you. Kyle, I'll throw this back to you. A few weeks ago, Walmart launched its first commercial drone delivery for online customers with tech partner DroneUp in Northwest Arkansas, beginning with Walmart Neighborhood Market in Farmington. The drone delivery service is going to operate from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Delivery times, they deliver items by air to eligible Walmart customers in like 30 minutes. Will this set the precedence for major retailers? Making an investment into the drone space is very telling for these major retailers who are all mainly public companies. How will this affect their overall value?
I think this is something that's not going to happen, but something that is happening right now. And I do think with COVID, it's just moved these timelines forward. I'm looking at a lot of the companies that are slated to go public by large banks like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, where I used to work. You're seeing companies that took advantage of the logistics delivery system really at the forefront with very high valuations. Not so much, let's say, the Amazons, the Alibabas, the Shoppies, but the companies that get that last mile done in places like Indonesia, Singapore, India. These companies will be going public. I see a slate of them going public between now and June of next year. So I think companies that are in the forefront of these delivery systems, whether it's drones or just being more efficient in logistics, are going to lead the market over the next 6 months, where people probably don't think that's going to happen. And then you couple that with what Jeff just said about the Biden infrastructure plan, whether you're on board with that or not. As an investor, we have to pay attention to what reality is, and that's a reality. It's coming around the corner.
True, very true. And now that you're factoring all of this in, your overall assessment makes total sense. You're not looking at it through tunnel vision like most investors are. You're looking at all of the pieces of the puzzle that fit together. And that's what I love about you. Jeff, how does blockchain technology fill the gap in drone analytics and telemetry?
Yeah, so there's lots of ways that drone technology can be used with blockchain, but mostly ways are that you can just hash a file so that you can understand if it's ever been changed or not. And why that's important is if you're depending on a file, whether it's a GPS coordinates file or whatever, you can prove to regulators that that file has never been changed because it's immutable like all blockchain technologies. So if you're an insurance company, you can depend on blockchain-based file structures to find out where that drone was flying or whose fault an accident was. So it's just a great way to ensure that regulators, whether it's the FAA or other regulators across the globe, and or compliance and insurance companies can depend on drone data.
I love how it all comes together when you think of the bigger picture now that we're going digital and the world has kind of revolutionized. We are truly in the digital process, and all of the pieces are starting to fit together if you are paying attention and if you learn how to utilize all of the subcomponents of the new technologies that we have, and you start to look at blockchain and NFTs and cryptocurrency and how that can fit into other markets. That's where you have a huge ecosystem that you are creating. And visionaries like yourself, visionaries like Kyle, both entrepreneurial skills, very, very, smart, sharp individuals are at the forefront of these companies because you have the ability to comprehend it from the bigger picture. Kyle, I have a question for you here. Although the drone economy, it's new, it's growing and promises to revolutionize package delivery and aerial imaging and a host of other applications in everyday life and businesses across a broad array of sectors. Many organizations are seeing the value drones can add, that inspecting infrastructure, surveying agriculture land, aiding first responders, right? All of the above. Now, these major retailers like Walmart and logistics players like UPS increasing their investment in the drone industry. Talk to us specifically about why RedCat Holdings is more attractive to investors. And you started to talk about it just before, but tie it all together because they don't just have one component to them, they have many.
I can't really recommend any individual stocks, even though Jeff is on the video cast with me right now. But I think one of the things that's very exciting about RedCat and his company is, number one, it's a public company. Investors can go out there and they can buy shares in the public company, and they can own shares in a company that either could go lower, could go higher, but they don't have to invest in some private company. They don't have to invest in a basket of mutual funds where maybe it has 4 or 5% into this sector. I think with that said, number one, but number two, I think another thing that Jeff mentioned a minute ago is the fact that the Department of Defense, the DoD, has validated their company, that they're working with them. I think those are the kind of things that, and me as a private investor for my own self, my clients, my family, I look for things like that aren't just, oh, it's a great story, but you look at the contracts, who's validating them, the different industry silos that they're in, whether it's the military, whether it's delivery, whether it's surveying of land. I think it's an exciting story for someone who has the risk tolerance to buy an individual stock.
Very well said. Very well said. And that makes total sense. And very last question. I'm going to throw this right back to you, Jeff. We have less than about a minute and a half left. There are instances, case in point, of drones in terror attacks and drug trafficking. And although it's a remarkable technology, it can be hazardous if it falls into the hands of extremists. For instance, in January of 2018, a swarm of 13 homemade drones struck 2 Russian military bases in Syria. What do you say to this? And are there ways to mitigate this?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's there's a lot of fear based on those events. But what's exciting about what we're doing with Teal drones is we are now working. The way to fight drones is typically with other drones, and what we are currently working on some great what we call swarm technology to be able to put hundreds of drones in the air, protect assets against drones coming in there. So this is something we're actively working on right now. We want to prevent things like that from happening. Have a technology that can protect assets. So, as we say in the industry, the way to fight a swarm is with an anti-swarm.
Beautiful. And you know what? The fact that you have it all worked out, the good, the bad, the ugly, the in between, makes me feel so much more confident in a company like RedCat and your vision and your the way that you're mastering the whole plan, covering all angles, right? All bases is just great. Kyle, thanks for bringing on such an incredible guest.
Thank you. Anytime for you, Zen.
You got it. Well, guys, I hope you come back and visit me again on Business and Buzz. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you, Jeff.
Great. Thanks for having me.
You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. That was Jeff Thompson, CEO of RedCat Holdings. Check them out on the internet, redcatholdings.com. And they are on the gram at RedCat Propware, RedCat Propware. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on OR. We'll be right back after this.
The options and recommendations expressed by Kyle Wool are his and his alone and may not represent Revere Securities as a whole.